Welcome back. Now, over the last week, we've been looking at the flaws and failings of Britain's housing market. House building at record lows, mortgages in short supply, rents on the rise. All three major parties know there's a problem and promise action. Housing is shaping up to be a major battleground for the next 2 years. And in a moment, we'll hear from our economics editor, Faisal Islam. But first, our North of England correspondent, Kieran Jenkins, has been looking at the reality of renting, talking to those who profit from it and to the young people for whom the idea of buying their own home is a distant dream.
What do these three men have in common? The answer, they've all found ways to make money from the 20 and 30-somethings of Generation Rent.
Do you rent?
Yes.
How do you find it?
A lot of wasted money. It's very expensive, especially in the city centre.
Do you find that you're spending a lot of your salary on rent?
Certainly, yeah, especially when you're trying to sort of save up to get a house eventually. It's quite tough.
I first moved to Manchester about 3 years ago, and it was a lot cheaper then.
Reaping the rewards are men like Stuart Law, who owns 30 properties and runs the largest buy-to-let broker in the country.
Yes, bedroom number 2. Fantastic view over the city.
Here in Manchester, rents have risen 8% in 2 years.
Rents are going up, yes, yeah, we're seeing it not being unusual at all to get a 10% growth in rents in between tenants, which can typically be in a year.
Not so good news for the tenants?
Not at all, no. If a landlord decides to move into the property or to sell it or to put the rent up, and the tenant decides they don't want to do that, and they try to move, it can be really hard to find an equivalent property on the market. It's so hot.
The recession put the brakes on house building. With demand for housing easily outstripping supply, rents have been rising and incomes can't keep up. So what next for young adults priced out not only of the housing market, but the rental market too?
Well, enter the micro apartment. They're building 160 of them on this site. The smallest will be like this one, 18 square metres. Who'd have thought the future of the rental market would be your bathroom, your bedroom, your kitchen, all in one space, about the third the size of a squash court. Not in London, not in Manchester, but in the heart of Oldham.
The man driving the project is Francis Liu, a property developer from China.
And you will have the kitchenette, and then you have the bed.
The plans state that none of the units are earmarked for affordable housing. They'll be let locally, but sold to investors in the Far East.
Do you think Oldham's ready for this kind of living? You know, I can imagine it working in Tokyo or somewhere, but Oldham?
Good point. I came from Hong Kong, and I know, people looking for quality buildings with everything in. The trend in New York and in San Francisco, they are getting into tiny micro apartments.
In Oldham, surely there's enough room to build big enough houses for people.
You don't need to be an accountant, to figuring out. The smaller size, that means, the lower price to get those apartments, and which will result in lower rental.
In Doncaster, Daniel Elder, who works in a warehouse, already lives in a micro apartment, otherwise known as a room. It costs him £70 a week. At 21, the sum of his property ambitions to one day rent a place of his own.
This room here is my space. This is my personal space, it's the only thing I've got, really.
What about owning a place?
Yeah, I think it'd be too hard, again, with money. This wouldn't be affordable. It's pretty rubbish, really, like you can't even consider it.
But Daniel is far from unique. Generation Rent is downsizing, and renting out rooms has become big business. As his landlord, Kim Stones, knows only too well, he sublets 23 properties in South Yorkshire. He's at the vanguard of a profitable niche called rent to rent.
This is the 4th bedroom. It's become a 4th bedroom. It used to be the living room.
Kim rents 3-bed properties from local landlords and then sublets them as 4 or even 5 individual rooms.
Our target is a minimum £400 a month profit on any property, and we do have properties that make £1,000 net profit a month.
Do you feel an ethical dilemma at all about what you do?
None whatsoever. It's okay bringing policies in, it's okay saying, where would these people go? Just, where would they go? They'd be on the streets in Doncaster, some of the people that we house.
But fuelled by high demand, rents are set to rise again each year for 7 years. And so, to a disgruntled generation, the government has said, we will help you buy. But who can even hope to buy if they can barely afford to rent?